This morning I am just a little confused because I have stopped running because it's snowy and icy and I don't have very good balance. Maybe I'll start running with the Wii or doing my exercise, but oh yeah, it's still inside. And I'm not dieting and I'm still losing weight. I wake up every morning a whole lot skinnier, so maybe there was something to this one meal a day thing. But the other thing, I'm combining what I'm thinking with a book that I read back when I think I would just turn 30. And I felt like I was so huge. And my dad says, stop losing weight because, people don't like people to be bony skinny. I prefer your mother to gain weight, actually. And so I was like trying to think of myself, oh, it's okay to be a little bit overweight. Anyway, and so I just decided, combine that with other things. I don't care. That's just the way I am. And I need to focus on something else and just accept. But I kind of started feeling bad about it. Like, oh, isn't that the same thing I did before? When I said, I'm just going to get bigger sizes instead of exercise. Well, then I also read another book, and it was mentioning that, well, I've already known that the pharmaceutical companies, there was corruption, because I remember, and this hits home, when I was having children, I felt like I was sick. And I went to the doctor and they prescribed something. And there was a whole bunch of people in the lobby waiting for me. Not a whole bunch of people, but there were a few people and they had these cute little suitcases and nice suits and they looked nice. And so I asked them, I said, so what kind of job are you doing? And one of the ladies told me that she works for a pharmaceutical company and her job is she takes these trial drugs doctors can do help and actually help people, because people tend to use things if they've been introduced to them. So instantly I noticed that my doctor was prescribing antidepressants to me, and I was like, that's kind of strange. I'm not depressed. Anyway, so then I called my mom and I had her come with me too. And she was kind of mad at the doctor. She's like, no, you're not depressed. Depression isn't your problem. But my doctor said to me, well, basically all Mormon women are depressed, so you're depressed. Anyway, so I took this drug, and this was my OBGYN, obstetrician. Anyway, and he was saying I'm depressed, and so he was giving me this sample because he had signed paperwork with the people that were there visiting, saying that if he prescribed this, he gets so much money. So it wasn't really that I needed it, it's that he was going to make a lot of money. Okay, so I took the drug, and guess what happened? My son was born with medical care. He had to have open heart surgery, and when he was born he wasn't breathing because he had a huge hole in his heart, which later they found was caused because of some type of drug, antidepressant drug that I had taken. Fast forward years later, I went to another doctor and I had to have him explain to me what exactly, because I was skeptical. He started saying, well, you have a mood disorder. And I was like, a mood disorder? Because also I went to a mood hospital, and I only agreed to it because I knew that my husband couldn't afford to take care of me. So I thought, well, I'll go stay in a place where I get regular meals and stuff, as long as I'm going to be home for the holidays. So anyway, I had a lawyer come see me too, and all the other people who were there were like, you don't have a problem. This is, you're not the type of person. And I had all these people talk to me, and the lawyer's like, well, you were put here against your will. Do you want to sue? I was like, no. They were like, okay, but you don't seem depressed. So Anyway, my doctor that I was seeing at the time tell me I have a mood problem. And I was like, well, actually, people told me I did not have it. Just a second. Okay, so he explained, and I was trying to make sure I knew exactly what the drug was doing. Because, first place, I had taken drugs. Oh, I'll tell another short little story. Not really related, but I went to a dentist's office once, and they gave me Novocaine, and it did not do anything. Absolutely nothing. They gave it to me again, and they said, we'll come back in 5 minutes. It didn't do anything. Then they came back a third time. They gave me another shot, and they said, well, that's all we can give you, because we're only allowed to give so much legally. Anyway, and it didn't do anything, but I lied, and I said it did, and I had to have a surgery on my mouth, and it was very painful. But I said that I couldn't feel it, because otherwise he might have had trouble doing it, because they had to like rip a tooth out of my mouth, and it hurt so bad. But the whole reason why I mentioned the story is because drugs didn't seem to have the effects that they're supposed to have on me, and I don't know why. So I want him to explain to me. And I was told that if you're on antidepressant drugs, you're not supposed to stop cold turkey. Well, I would pretend. My mom would come give them to me every day, and I'd throw them in the garbage. I had to stop doing that because my daughter found them, and she's like, what are these? And I was like, oh. Then I got really upset. Anyway, so this new doctor was explaining to me exactly. The drug was called Effexor, and he explained how what happens is your brain is producing all these neurons, and then they're supposed to be absorbed. I don't remember what they're called. Anyway, it's supposed to be absorbed. There's like these receptors that send out information. It's like the information is traveling from point A to point B. And point B wasn't absorbing them, and so there's getting to be a buildup of this stuff. And anyway, he's saying the way it fixes any problem in your brain is it increases the ability of your brain to absorb that. And I was like, okay, that doesn't seem painful. So, I mean, not painful. It doesn't seem like it's going to cause anything hard to my body. I ended up stopping to take it because I read another book on natural cures. And there's some stuff that worked, but you know what? The main thing that I learned from that book was there was a time when he realized, you know what? And the whole, what's that called? I can't think of the word. It's like your idea of how things work. My whole idea was based on a food pyramid, and he says that this guy that wrote the book said he was looking at a food pyramid. He noticed that it was put out by the Dairy Council. And I was like, oh, so all along, I just don't like dairy. I don't ever eat it. I can't stand it. But anyway, and my son was having health problems, and the first thing they asked for him to do is to cut back on his milk. And he knows to this day the reason why he had problems because he was drinking too much milk. And it's because I mold every meal. I make sure we follow. Now it's called My Plate, but at the time, food pyramid, I'd make sure we have the right amount of everything. Well, this morning I saw another video where they said it isn't even that at all. It's pairing. And I've heard in the back of my mind, I recalled another thing. And that was that they were saying that like things like red bean and rice, they go together. People just eat them together. And together they create a certain protein that your body needs. And the whole idea is that who even came up with the food pyramid? I can't think of the word. I keep thinking Podagood. No, I can't think of it. Anyway, my whole point was I've realized that I need to make a change, and I don't need to necessarily follow a My Plate or food pyramid because why? Why do I do it anyway? It's just because that's the way I'm used to doing things. And, you know, I think instead what needs to become that, I can't remember no, I can't think of the word. I'm having a brain fog right now about that word. I'm not going to be able to think of it for the life of me. Anyway, so I need to transition and find food pairs that work together, because I need to be thinking of that every time I have a meal and use that to base my meal on, not the food pyramid. And, you know, it's going to be hard because it's going to have to be a shift in my, whatever that word is, the way I do things, because the way I do things and the way I'm used to thinking of things is that we have to have a fruit, a vegetable, a grain, and milk, and a protein. But, you know, I don't think it's necessarily, because I think the way my body uses drugs is not the way they're supposed to be prescribed. So my food might not necessarily use, my body might not necessarily use food the way it's supposed to either. Anyway, so I'm thinking, I mean, not necessarily the way it's supposed to be, but I mean the way I've been told it would. And somebody just randomly came up with that food pyramid, and I'm basing my health and my existence off of it. That seems kind of silly.